so that.
Oh, there it goes. All right. How's my lighting?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I can see you good.
Cool.
Okay. All right, stand by.
And if there's any disconnections, obviously I'll log back in.
Yeah, and no worries at all. People may be having the same issues. Should not have. I can't even copy it. See, it shouldn't even be an issue. Okay. All right, I'm gonna give it a few more minutes.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, Jabril. I think Amani was sitting here before.
Yeah, I was sending out the. I was going to question about the. That's what I was trying to do now is answer questions about the password. Oh, there it goes. All right.
Should we? We posted as well.
YouTube is working.
It's working.
Yep.
Okay.
Shout out to Adrian McMeddy. Appreciate you. Friend of mine.
I posted it up. All right. So we got a few people in. I'm sending it out. I want to wait because I know there's like 20 people that's probably like having the same issue.
Oh, you
My
said it.
phone is because my phone is blowing up. So I'm like, okay,
Okay.
let me try to fix it for everyone.
Okay. Okay. Give it a sec.
Yeah, I can't stand Zoom. This is ridiculous.
It's the new era we're in. You have these issues, these technical difficulties that arise from
Yeah.
that moment that you don't anticipate.
Now we're probably going to get inundated with like 10, 15 people coming in a row.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna happen. Do you have to accept them or they just pop in?
Hopefully they can just pop in. That's what I set it to. But sometimes with Zoom, you'll set it to one thing and then it'll just decide like,
Yeah,
oh, we need this. And I'm like, even though I clicked, they should allow they're supposed to be set up where they can join at any time.
got you.
So people can actually see now, yeah, here we go. Now people are coming in. All right. Yeah, people had the same. Sorry, people. Sorry, family, about that. I set it so that you wouldn't have to use the password, and now it created one. So it did exactly what I didn't want it to do. But I'm glad I got my guy here. As people continue, please continue to share the link with people that are probably trying to get in now. I did put it on my Instagram story. But please continue to share the link out and share the passcode. Apologies for that. I didn't even know it generated it. But we want to continue. We're 6 minutes in. You guys know exactly who I am, so I'm not even going to go through that. But we're here with this amazing, intelligent brother right here, my man, Dr. B. Dr. Brian Barney. He's fantastic, a doctor in naturopathic medicine. I have never heard of that, but I'm so glad I know it now because all the things that I've been learning about on the internet via Dr. Sebi, Brian does for a living. So, and it's one of the most amazing things to see a brother like you doing such amazing things and so knowledgeable in the things that you do. So let's jump right into it. You can give me a full background or whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, so first, thank you for those opening remarks. I'm humbled. I do not see myself that highly, so but I appreciate the intro. So my name is Brian. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and so once you make that statement to people, the first question you usually get is, "What is a naturopathic doctor?" So I'll kind of give my background, and then I'll get into more details on what specifically a naturopathic doctor is. So I wanted to pursue medical school, and I had the desire. I had seen, how the medical system had interacted with my family members and friends and such, and I wasn't happy with it at all. I wanted something different, and I knew that though I wanted to pursue medicine to help people, I didn't feel like the medical model that I learned and that we were all accustomed to was well equipped to do that. So I did a little bit of digging, not much, just a little bit of digging. And then I ended up finding about naturopathic medicine, which the moment I read about it, it just fell in perfect alignment with everything that I wanted to practice as a physician. So naturopathic medicine, the best way I could summarize it quickly would be saying it's a system of medicine that is the natural system of medicine, basically relying upon the body's innate ability to heal and using that to thrive throughout life. So it's very loaded, and so it's hard to summarize in one like sentence. But if I had to, that'd be the best way I could explain it. So whether you look at it now, I know I'm thankful I'm talking to a church group, but I know there's some listeners on here that might have different ideologies. So whether you want to look at it from an evolutionary perspective or whether you want to look at it from a creationist perspective, um, there's no denying that we are self-healing organisms. We have the ability to heal, even with the best surgeons in the world. They go in, they remove something, and or they go in internally, they cut you open, and then all they do is approximate the tissues, meaning they bring the tissue as close together as possible. They do great stitching, they give you some anti-inflammatories, and then they send you on your way. And basically, it's your job, it's your body's job to heal from the work that was done. So that's the more extreme version. We all know we've all been cut before, we've all been sick before, and we've gotten better without necessarily the use of medication. So there is an innate intelligence that guides all of our cells and our systems in our body that is far more intelligent than we can try to do by intervening in that system. So naturopathic medicine seeks to help that system thrive within us. So it's a system of medicine that can be used at any moment in life, whether from birth to death. It can always be utilized um, to improve health. And that's what we actually focus on. We focus on health and not so much disease names. So we look at how you are suffering individually because we've all been sick before, and we've all been sick and people around us have been sick, but it could be the same sickness that's affecting all of us, but it affects us all uniquely. And so we look at the individual and we see how can we help the individual heal as opposed to just combating systems of symptoms and disease. So that's how I would summarize naturopathic medicine. Um, and
That's interesting. No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say it's interesting because the way society has been taught medicine is not so much in that they. I've never heard it explained as this, as such as the way you just explained it is. We get you as close as we can to allowing your body to do what it's supposed to do. In our
right,
minds, we've been programmed by society that the doctors are the ones that actually heal us instead of our bodies.
yeah,
So so as you, I don't want to cut off your history. Please continue, but I definitely want to get back to that
yeah,
point because you've spoken about that kind of stigma in
yeah,
the medical field.
absolutely. We since we are self-healing and self-regulating, the idea of somebody else doing it for us, it's a concept that's it's really debilitating in a lot of ways because ultimately the most I can do as a physician is give you the tools to help you heal. That's what the best healers can do. Provide you with all the tools, resources, knowledge, and information to help you heal. Um, you know, when you have a headache, and I'll just use this as an example because it's really at the root difference between naturopathic medicine and other medicines. And for those that still kind of are battling with the idea, think of it like different types of attorneys. Okay, you have divorce attorneys, you have probate attorneys. They all do different things. They may all be helping you with legal matters, but they approach it differently depending on what the need is. So with naturopathic medicine, we look at signs and symptoms as just signs and symptoms. And without getting too deep and too philosophical, a sign is never equivalent to what it's pointing you to. Like the sign for Disneyland is not Disneyland. It's just telling you that Disneyland is around the corner, right? So when we experience signs and symptoms of disease, we, in our immaturity, we treat that as if it's the disease, but it's not. It's simply pointing you towards what an issue might be. So in naturopathic medicine, we call this compensatory responses. We have um, throughout your day, you breathe, and that gets toxins out your lungs. You may use the bathroom, that also gets toxins out your body. You sweat, it's another form of getting toxins out your body. But let's say you inhale something, and that what you inhaled is irritating to your lungs. The natural response is a cough, right? So you would cough to get that out. Something we can't do nowadays. um,
Now we're Rona going around.
yeah. So the natural response is to get the toxin or the irritant out your lungs. Sorry, not toxin, but the irritant out your lungs or respiratory tract. When you cough, that is a natural defense mechanism that you have inbuilt into you to help deal with the irritation that's occurring. Now, you can take a cough. Let's say you couldn't cough. Okay, you would something was over your mouth, you couldn't cough. That irritant that's in there, you feel it a lot more at that moment. It starts to eat at you, and you really want to get it out. So that's suppressing symptoms. That's how we view it. The problem is the irritant that's in your respiratory tract. You get rid of the irritant, the cough goes away. The problem is not the cough, though it may be what's disturbing you in your life to make you recognize that, because your body needs a way to tell you that there's something wrong with the respiratory tract. So it uses a cough as an example. Um, so if you would take, an antitussive and something to suppress the cough, but you never address what the cause of the cough actually is, so you would continue to inhale these particles that are damaging to your respiratory tract. You know, you keep taking the cough suppressant. A month later, you end up, developing bronchitis, pneumonia, things like that. It's a logical conclusion because you suppress the body's ability to respond to the irritant that was in there in the first place.
Hold up, Dr. B. So you're telling me that all the medicine in the drugstore that say cough suppressant is not what I should be using?
I'm not going to say it's not what you should be using. What I'm saying is it's a symptom suppressor. So you have to analyze, is it appropriate? And this is why doctors are important, because they have to analyze, or we have to analyze at that time, is that the appropriate action to do? Now, let me give you an example when it would be appropriate. So let's say you have to go to work, or let's say parents, you have a child coughing all night, can't get any sleep. Sleep is incredibly important for the immune system. So if your immune system's not functioning, let's say you are feeling ill, and um, you are coming down with some type of infection that would produce a cough, you may want to use something. Let's say you're coughing more at nighttime. You may want to take a cough suppressant at nighttime. But, and this is the key part, and I think this is where naturopathic medicine really shines, and separates itself from other forms of medicine, is that the cough is not the problem. It's what's annoying you in your life, but it's not the problem. You have to get rid of what's causing the main issue. So if you don't address the immune system and support that system in helping it to get better and helping you to get better, then the cough will remain, or you'll just be treating the cough and it'll take you longer to heal because you never supported the system that was actually going to heal you in the end. So,
So now, Dr. B, that's a perfect segue because I want you to educate us on the best ways to take care of our immune system, how to build it up, how to support it.
right.
Because in these crazy times, you're talking about Corona, you're talking about, sicknesses and all kind of, I can't even name all of them, but there's something for everything. And every time we're so paranoid now that we're starting to get ourselves sick from
Yeah.
thinking that something is something else when it isn't.
Right.
So educate us on what is the best way to build and take care of our immune system.
Right. So, yes, that's a great question, and that's why I went into naturopathic medicine, because without millions of dollars worth of equipment, I wanted to ask myself, how can I help people? If I'm not in a hospital setting, I don't have an MRI machine at my availability, and because my parents come from Haiti, so I always think in terms of natural solutions to things. So one of the ways, so I guess we'll start like this. What we're all made up of, 100%, is what we eat, breathe, drink, and think. Okay, that is what comprises our physical makeup. So thoughts can create chemicals which influence mood and behavior, and that then has a physical, like your thoughts have a physical reality on how you will end up your physical shape. So if you don't believe me, just be really angry and look at yourself in the mirror and then see how you look. Or be really happy and it reflects in your smile and everything like that. Um, so thoughts affect our physical reality, and that's important because they're connected, they're not separate. And the medical model we're used to completely separates spirit and thought from like reality in a sense. So how we build an immune system is understanding that principle that you are what you eat, breathe, drink, and think. So I posted something early on Instagram, and it was a picture of a Ferrari, and it said, if you had a Ferrari, would you put E85 gas in it? You know, which is the cheapest gas there is, terrible for your car. I don't even have a Ferrari, and I don't put E85 in my car. So that being said, if you want to do that to your car, why do we fill our bodies with food that's unhealthy for us or junk food, essentially? Even the idea that we have junk food is a strange concept because food is what nourishes our cells and keeps us healthy, makes us healthy. So why would we consume food that takes away from that? It's very disrespectful. And I love the title that you had for the talk about a temple. Um, we do have beautiful temples in this world, all over the world, and people adorn them with gold and they don't just put any kind of metal in there. They put the best of the best in there. They make sure it's clean. I've never been in any religious building and found it dirt. Usually very clean.
Very true.
So it's weird that we have this adoration for these gifts, but here we are in our physical body in the life that we have, and it really is our temple. And then we're very careless with what we put inside of ourselves. So food is, I would say, the biggest one that we should focus on. Mental health is enormous as well, but that's a deeper topic, and I think it would trump food. But spiritual food and mental food are, I think, trump material food. But focusing on something, an activity that we do every day, multiple times a day. I think it's interesting when we talk about drugs and medication because those chemicals that we take in a pill, if I had to say which one do, you don't take as many pills as you do eat food. And food is as much a biochemical process as it is putting a pill in your mouth. Except you're doing one of them way more in life, and you do it every day. From the time you're little to the day you die, you will be eating food. So, um, you know, we need to change our eating habits. And a big thing about Corona and the Black community is it highlighted that our eating habits are not good, and we have a lot of notions about culture tied to food. And sometimes when we need to start correcting a process, we need to kind of pull away. We need to examine ourselves. We need to look in the mirror and see what we're doing. And if what we're doing is not producing the results we want, then we need to re-examine what we're doing and make small changes over time. You know,
So
oh,
Dr. B, that because that's a lot to handle.
yeah.
That's like because to have to revamp how we eat and what we digest and how we take care of our temple, it's easier said than done. If we start talking about because the reason why I say it's easier said than done, I want to point out because there's so many diets, there's so many weight loss gimmicks and things out there, and you are a doctor of medical habits. You specialize in. What are the things? What are the foods? Since we're talking about what we put into our temple, and you made
Hmm.
an excellent point that you've never seen like a dirty church, so to speak, a dirty
Hmm.
temple, so to
Hmm.
speak, and yet we don't take care of our bodies. I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, I love burgers and fries and
Hmm.
wings are my absolute favorite. Are you telling me I have to give up my wings? Is that what you're telling me?
So I'll say it this way: you don't have to give up your wings. Okay, I'm not gonna be that mean and take away
All right,
everything.
all right.
No, but we need to start acknowledging what we're eating is what sustains our life. And the question is the nutritional content in the food that we're eating, is it sufficiently sustaining our lives in the manner that we want them to live? So, you know, I ask people all the time, and it's just a random question I throw out at people. Hey, what fruit did you eat today? And most of the time people don't have one. Like, I haven't eaten fruit today. And to me it's not mind blowing because I see it so often. But fruit is we eat a lot of food-like products, but the basic things that our body craves. So we need water and we need good quality water. When you eat fruit, there's hydration in the fruit automatically. Um, Fruits contain high levels of antioxidants, so they're great for cellular energy, preventing us from aging as much. There's so many benefits in fruit. They are prebiotics. So now the new trend is to talk about the health of the stomach and the microbiome, as they call it, so the bacteria in the gut. And so everybody's taking probiotics. But eating fruit is huge. Um, the fiber content, it helps increase our bowel movements. And most of us, we end up with a booty do because our fiber content is so low. And for those of you who don't know what a booty do is, it's when your stomach stick out more than your booty do because we're just full of food that we're full of waste that we've never excreted out. So, that's just one instance of how fruit is beneficial to us. And
So what are the other? So now we have fruit.
yeah,
Because one of the things I struggle with is trying to understand is, okay, we made a decision. We're gonna be healthier. I live by doing my best to be as healthy as possible.
yeah.
Dr. B, give us what are the top 5 things we could do right now?
Okay.
Your fruit is one. Eat more fruit is one, and I
Yep.
think I think a lot of us we love fruit. Like my parents, they've instilled that in us. We love. I even got my kids; they love fruit now.
Good.
But if you don't have, okay, fruit is one. What are the next ones? What should we do? Because
Yeah.
when you're saying that it's the food that is affecting us, there's so much food. I love food. When I tell you, Dr. B, I don't think you understand. I love food. So you're telling me like, all right, you got to stay away from this, but what specifically should I do? Like
Right.
fruits are first. What's the next four?
Okay. So guarantee a couple of guarantees that will always I look to do addition rather than subtraction because subtraction is harder for people because you feel like you're losing something in life. And food for us is very emotional. It's holiday memories, it's memories with our parents, the childhood, things like that. So you have fruits, increasing fruits and vegetables. You can't go wrong doing that. And um, when you're increasing your vegetables, combination is important. So a lot of times people will want to say, I'm just going to do, I'm going to eat more broccoli. It's like, well, that's good. So here's how you should do your shopping. And I think this will basically answer that 5 things that you want to know. Here's how you should do your shopping. 75 to 80% or more. You never go wrong for doing more, but 75 to 80% of your shopping should come from the produce aisle. It's called produce for a reason. Okay. So, when it says be fruitful, when that's, it's called produce for a reason. The other stuff is labeled food-like products. We shouldn't be buying out of plastic bags and boxes for the nourishment of our body. Now, it's not easy just to transition to that all of a sudden in one moment. I get that. But if you would focus on going back to the basics of learning how to pick out fruit and vegetables in the market, having a relationship with your food, not trying to do a diet that's just gonna give you a physical result. So, for example, you might be like, I want to do the keto diet because a lot of people say they lost weight on the keto diet. The problem is that's what they don't talk about with the keto diet. And I know a bunch of keto people are gonna jump on me for this, but it's just
I wanted to point out, somebody in the chat just asked the keto question. So go
of course.
ahead.
So the ketogenic diet is a diet that was designed specifically to treat seizure patients that were uncontrolled seizures. It was
Wow.
not meant to sustain life at all. To put your body in a state of the ketogenic diet is trying to trick the body. And it goes back to this concept that we want to live unnaturally, which is why it's naturopathic medicine. We want to live unnaturally, but we want to have good results. It's impossible to do. Every organism must live in harmony with the environment around it in order to thrive. You know, if you can't try to take an ice cube and walk it around Florida in your hands all day, it's not going to survive in that environment because it's just not meant for that. It'll melt very quickly. In the same way, if you're walking in Chicago and you have a bottle of water and it's minus 20 degrees like it is sometimes here, then your water will freeze. It's just there's laws that govern the area which you live in, and there's laws that govern how our body works as well. So we can't try to violate that. Ketogenic diet tries to put the body in a starvation state while allowing people to eat their bacon, their ridiculous amounts of protein and in fats, and that diet does not work long term. Dr. Atkins and other people have died from trying to do this diet. The marketing campaign said, oh, when Dr. Atkins died from the diet, they're like, oh, let's switch it over and let's call it the ketogenic diet. It's the Dr. Atkins diet. It's the same concept of reduced carbs below 30 grams per day, which is an apple, which is ridiculous. And all foods are carbohydrates, and I don't even like having that conversation unless I'm having with a physician or somebody who knows about nutrition. Because when you say carbohydrates, we're going to reduce our carbohydrates. You're talking about reducing, like, carbohydrates are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Foods that are most beneficial to us are rich in carbohydrates. Broccoli, asparagus, cauliflower, apples, oranges, carbohydrates all day. What people confuse is they say, I'm going to reduce my carbohydrates, and they stop eating things like French fries, which they call a carbohydrate, but it's actually fat. Like you took a French fry and you dipped it in fat, threw a bunch of salt on it, and you're like, oh, I'm eating a potato. No, it's not a
You
potato
talking my
anymore.
language, Dr. B. You are speaking my language. That sounds good, but I know
So
you're right.
no, and it's true. I like French fries too. I'm a French fryaholic. I love French fries, but I recognize that it's not a health food for me. So nobody's saying you have to live. Thankfully, we've been given grace to where we can step outside the bounds of what is necessarily best for us, and we don't suffer immediate consequences for it. If life worked like that, oh, trust me, none of the fast food joints that people eat at would exist because people would not eat Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, Murder King. People
Oh,
wouldn't eat at these places. So, um, but only so increasing your hydration, water, water, water
so,
is what you're meant to drink.
so, all right. So we have increase the fruits, increase the
The
vegetables,
vegetables,
increase water hydration.
increase water and hydration.
And you're talking about increase. How much
But
are we talking about? Like, how much are we talking here? Because you're saying I need a vegetable, uh, and of course a big old glass of water with every meal, or what we talking about? Or is there a time? I don't want to. But matter of fact, let me not interrupt. I apologize. Just you continue, and then I'll
no,
go.
that's a good question. It's a very specific question, and I think this is another component of naturopathic medicine. We all do. Um, we all have varying diets or varying needs depending on our activity levels. I see your red pop up. So if there's any questions and you want me to get them, then just shoot them at me, and I'll.
Yeah, we can jump into that section because we can always jump back and forth. We have
Yeah.
a couple of questions. You answered one. If you want to jump straight into, you answered the keto question. What about CMOS? What about I'm a big. You have a great Dr. Sebi story. That's where I first learned about CMOS, and I don't want to. We still got about 20 something minutes, so I don't want to belabor it. But what are
Okay.
your views on CMOS and um, its processes for the body?
So CMOS is one of the superfoods, and I tell people about superfoods all the time, but it's the activities that we do every day that make the biggest impact on our health. So CMOS and other superfoods like spirulina and such, they're great. They're great to add into your diet. Um, However, there is caution with CMOS that needs to be considered, especially because of autoimmune issues. So CMOS is rich in iodine. And depending if you have thyroid conditions, it might not be the best superfood for you to consume. So it's something to consider. But as far as the average person who's aware that they don't have any hormonal issues or um, thyroid issues specifically, then adding things like that in your diet are great. But then you also want to be cautious of the source from where these things come from. Because CMOS, especially since the late great Dr. Sebi did his work, CMOS has become very popular, and a lot of people, you have to watch about how they are sourcing these things, because these sources contain a lot of, there's a lot of all the drugs and chemicals that we use eventually get flushed into our water system. Now, the idea is that these things are supposed to be filtered, but we don't have filters to filter some of the things that are going in there. So there's lots of studies about that they do on animals in nature from the chemicals that we take in and how they're affecting the animals in nature, whether it's caffeine from so many Starbucks existing in the United States, or whether it's estrogen and animals reacting to estrogen overload because of birth control pills and things like that. Because when these things are used, you flush them throughout your system. You urinate, you flush the toilet, it goes in the system. However it's set up in that particular area, eventually it has to go to somewhere in nature. And so if you're getting your CMOS and other products from areas that aren't, or from sources that aren't clean, then you might be doing yourself more harm than good. So I would say that's the biggest caution with CMOS. Those are the two biggest cautions.
Okay, we have another one that says, what about going vegan? Another question in the chat. What about going vegan? I've heard so much about it. I'm curious. What are
Okay.
your thoughts on going vegan?
So that's a deep conversation. So veganism as a ideology is essentially about animals. But if you're talking about avoiding animal-based products for food, it still obviously would be vegan. But when people say vegan, the reason I am cautious with the good of that, and I'll give a story from a friend of mine. She said she was going vegan because I'm vegan myself. So she said she was going vegan because she was just inspired by me. I don't know. I don't try to convince people. So she said she was going vegan, and her breakfast was, I believe, Coca-Cola, gummy bears, and something else, and like chips or something. Yeah, like potato chips. Terrible, terrible diet. Terrible diet. So going vegan doesn't tell me what you're eating. I prefer to tell people to go plant-based, which is why I said if you're just increasing your fruit and vegetable intake, increasing your hydration, exercise, moving. I'm not going to say exercising, that scares people. You have to move. Movement is a natural, movement is one of the first laws in this universe, to have motion. If everything, when you don't have motion, you're in a neutral position, which is death. So movement is life. Life is movement. That's why we refer to, even metaphorically, refer to cities that are hustling and bustling, more lively. They generally have more movement. It's because movement is a sign of life. When you don't, any parent, their heart would stop if they saw their child not moving. So that just shows you on a very basic biological level, movement is a part of life. Cells are constantly in motion because they're subject to the laws of physics as well. So we have to movement, whether it's getting outdoors and walking, whether it's within your home doing simple squats or push-ups against the wall if you can't do push-ups on the ground. There's lots of different ways to engage in movement. But when we say like get in shape, in biology, that's a reality. Things are determined, the shape of something, they'll say that form follows the function of the thing. Really, they're intertwined. The form of the thing will tell you what the function is supposed to be. If you have a heart that's not in good shape, like a boot-shaped heart, that creates all sort of issues for the person's health. Shape is vitally important. You have hormones that bind onto cells specifically because of the shape of the hormone. When proteins form, they form in a very particular shape to do what they're going to do. If they form into a different shape, they have a different function. So, movement is another one. I would say that'd be the fourth one.
Okay.
You're
so increase fruits, increase vegetables, water, movement.
and
Now,
yeah.
So now, in reference, so you are a vegan. You just said so you are a vegan.
Yeah.
And how do you go about utilizing those practices on a day to day? Because I know many struggle like me. I can't commit to a specific eating lifestyle, because once I cannot figure out what I can have for a snack, or if it's not available and I don't know any other options, I just go right back to what I know best. So
Right.
how do how do we implement these, especially the fruits and vegetables? How do we implement those when we don't have time, and when we're looking for snacks and we're trying to make it taste good? Because
Yeah.
truth be told, I know you're a doctor, Dr. B, but let me tell you, sometimes these things taste demonically disgusting. They just taste nasty, and I'm not. It's just
Right.
I'm not doing it.
Right.
So if you committed to this, how in the world did you say, okay, this? Like, what are the foods, and how do you make the snacks and the foods to keep you going?
Right. So I'm a bad example because I follow. It would be more complicated to explain than I could here. But how I transitioned prior to me knowing what I know now into changing my eating habits to the way that they are specifically now because they're very unique. Um, Prior to that, when I would when I was transitioning, I should say, and trying to give up certain foods that because I grew up with severe asthma and severe allergies. I was the child on the nebulizer every night. I could not breathe. It was terrible. And I always had to have not only just an inhaler, but a nebulizer. So it's basically at the time, it was a big breathing machine. And I was,
Yep.
four,
And
four or
you
5 years
turned it
old.
on. You had the cap. I had that too. Yep.
Yes, yes. And then I would get allergy shots every week and they would make me incredibly sick. So what I started to do for my transition, and I'll just briefly highlight this for those that are interested in doing a plant-based lifestyle, because I stress it's a plant-based lifestyle that you want to have for health reasons. Um, and regardless of what your dietary lifestyle is, you still want to do that. It's the best. Your vegetables give you minerals and all sorts of structure for your cells. It's what you need. Um, when I was transitioning, because I was an athlete and because I would run miles per day and train multiple times per day, I was very in tune with how my body felt. I gave up dairy because it was very inflammatory to my system. And most of us are allergic to dairy, especially in the Black community. Um, there's arguments that that's one of the biggest racial discriminatory recommendations in the dietary world right now. So
That. Yeah.
um, yeah, because dairy is something that doesn't we don't tolerate well at all. And there's different discussions on that. But for the general person going to purchase the milk out of the grocery store that's been pasteurized, we don't tolerate that milk at all. Most of us don't. And it creates inflammatory diseases in us, gives us stomach issues, gives us allergies, and all sorts of things because we're it's just not meant for us. We wean off of our mother's breast milk and then we jump to another creature for and that creature is sick in itself. That's another whole another topic that people can look into. But I gave up. I would say start by giving up what you know you can give up. So pork, incredibly bad for us, like on all levels. The World Health Organization has already ruled on these things. Um, you can look up most dietary recommendations, and they will tell you that these things are incredibly inflammatory and disease ridden for you, and contain worms and all sorts of things that are just not good for you. They don't sustain. It doesn't sustain life in a healthy way. Cardiovascular disease is the number one killer in this country, and our diet is the reason why. In fact, I believe it was I'm not. I don't remember which president. I want to say it was Woodrow Wilson, but at the time there was a cardiologist who ended up the lead cardiologist in the country at the time made a statement that if we were living properly and eating the right foods, there's no reason that our heart should show any signs of aging before the age of 80. Right now, people are dying of heart attacks in their low 40s because of what we're eating. Um, so I started by giving up pork. Then I gave up beef, which is, you know, when you start looking into the detail, I would say everybody should start questioning the source of where their stuff comes from and really look into it and ask yourself, is that what you want to sustain your health? I don't want to get stuck too much in the vegan thing because I don't want to just like try to convince everybody to go vegan.
Yeah.
But for the person who asked that question, it can be incredibly beneficial and help reverse a lot of conditions health conditions that people are seeing when you start giving up certain things like animal products that people are having issues tolerating because these animals are very incredibly sick and we're using them to sustain our life. So how can we take something that's sick and try to sustain a healthy life? It's illogical.
Yeah, you explain that very simply because I can't tell you how many times where we sit there and we justify why we eat the way we eat because of what we've seen. And
Yeah,
that's why I wanted to bring you on here today because I want you to kind of debunk and kind of like shift the way we think about things because when you change the way you think, then you can change what you do and how you act. So,
exactly.
so now, a couple other questions in the chat. We have uh, another question says, should we drink half our body weight in ounces of water?
What if you weigh 300 pounds? Do you want to drink that
Lord
much in
have
water a
mercy.
day? Like, so here's what I would say. For most people, that answer is going to be no. The easiest way to determine how much you need to drink, um, there was you don't notice before you're thirsty. Like by the time you notice you're thirsty, it's because your body is already fighting mild signs of dehydration. So with drinking, I would say here's the best way to increase your drinking. One, quality of water. Do not drink sink water, tap water. Stop doing
You just answered another question. Go ahead, keep going.
it. Because we all grew up on we all had those things. Don't come back inside if you were playing outside. So we all went to the hose. That was survival. Okay, you don't want to be doing that on your daily basis. Stay drinking out of tap or hoses or things like that. Get filtered water, and preferably get you a good filter. I personally, and I don't make any money from this. I personally use a Berkey filter. If you can, afford something like a Kangen machine or a reverse osmosis filter, get one of those, right? It's important you invest in your health because you might look up a Berkey filter and say, "Oh, that thing costs 250. I don't want to get it."
And what? How do you say it? It's a Berkey.
Yeah, Berkey.
Okay, okay, got you.
Yeah, and but it filters. I mean, it filters basically like everything that you want filtered out of your water, and you can look it up. I always say things that are Googleable, so people can. That's a new word, Googleable, so that people can look up, so they don't have to meet with somebody who knows about all these things. They can just look them up on Google. So stop drinking tap water if you're doing that. Flint, Michigan should have showed you that, okay? Because these metals that are in the pipes, they they oxidize, they get into your drinking water. Plus, there's all sorts of hormones and chemicals from other people flushing stuff that's in our drinking water. You don't want to drink that. Drink. How you increase your hydration is to drink whatever you're drinking now. Let's say you want to drink.
Alkaline water.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, yeah, alkaline is great. Alkaline water is great. Just make sure it's really alkaline water because a lot of companies will sell alkaline water and it's not. Spring water is just as good in most cases for their marketing. Um, but if you drink, let's say you only drink 2 bottles of water a day, you're like, I know I need to drink more water. Okay. Nothing else I want to make this very clear. Nothing else you drink is biologically needed. Not fruit punch, not wine, not alcohol.
What
And
about
don't tell
Gatorade?
me this. Don't tell me this. Alcohol is good for the heart. Garbage. It's not. It's not. It's garbage. This is a marketing campaign. You want to know what foods to eat? Eat the ones that don't have advertisements. Okay. You want to know what you should be drinking? Stop drinking stuff that have advertisements. Okay. Seriously. It's
Wow.
we are marketed all sorts of things that are not biologically necessary to us. And alcohol is a microtoxin. It destroys the liver and it messes with our brains. I mean, if you think about it, if as a mother, you can't drink alcohol when you're pregnant because it destroys the brain of your child, why would you want to consume that when you're not pregnant? And the same thing for fathers. I want to point that out because a lot of times fertility, that's an issue that's missed on fertility. Fathers who drink alcohol, even if the mother's not drinking, you then put your child at future risk for other diseases because health is passed down through generations. Unfortunately, the first generation that comes after us has to deal with their parents' eating and drinking habits. And so my health is partly determined by the health of my mother and father. So, if you want to put your child in a good position, start fixing your health. So,
Wow. Okay.
oh, I'm sorry. Wait, I have to say. So, how to
Yes.
increase your water though? How to increase
Yes.
your water throughout the day? If you don't like water, put some fruit in it. It'll give it flavor. Okay. Most of the time, it's not that you don't like water. You don't like the other toxins that are in the water that are leaching into you. So like BPA from plastics and things like that. That's what you don't like. Water doesn't taste like anything. But if you put strawberries or cucumbers in there, it'll give it a different flavor and it'll be more nourishing to your body. That's one way to like water. When it increase your water, start by if you drink 2 bottles of water a day and you want to drink like say your goal is to get to 6, don't jump to 5 or 6. Start by drinking 2.5 and do that for like 3-4 days until you stop running to the bathroom every 30 seconds. Once your body adjusts to that much level, then you can start drinking more water and your body will basically acclimate at each stage that you get to. So do it incrementally. Don't try to run a marathon because you're just like, I'm excited. No, learn to jog a mile first.
Okay. All right. This is awesome. Okay, I have a question about maybe you could answer these in twofold. Somebody's asking about cranberry juice, and the other is asking about veggie and turkey burgers.
Okay. So cranberry juice, real cranberry juice, or I forget what that company's name is, like Country Life or whatever it's called. If it's real cranberry juice from real cranberries, that's like juicing a fruit. So it's good for you. Now, if you have, I believe, so let's say you have like diabetes and it's uncontrolled diabetes, then you don't just want to drink like a huge glass of cranberry juice. That might not be the best thing for you at the time. Um, that would require working with a healthcare professional. But if you don't have any of these issues, cranberry juice is fine because it's actually from real cranberries. The problem is the stuff that's marketed in the stores is usually put cranberry extract, flavoring, coloring, and all this other stuff, and that's what we end up drinking. And that's not good for us. That stuff's not good for us.
Okay, so now what
Uh,
about what about turkey and
yeah,
veggie?
the turkey and veggie burgers. So they're better for you. Well, so people are going to turkeys because they're trying to avoid cows.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And it is a better step, maybe. Arguable. I would say, out of curiosity, just look how turkeys are treated before they're made into burgers, and see if you want to eat that. And if you don't think they're, um, because don't let the marketing fool you. You are marketed what you should be eating as far as turkey burgers, and they show you a happy turkey is like that's not what animals look like in these factory farms. And anybody who's looked into it, even people who are like, oh, I'm not vegan at all, they're like, yeah, factory farms need to be abolished. But 92% of the meat that's produced on this planet is produced in factory farms. So would you want to eat a turkey that has cancer? Question. So veggie burgers, getting to veggie burgers. There's a lot of arguments that veggie burgers aren't healthy for you. And partially true. They are healthier than the alternatives that argument is made by the meat companies because they want you to buy the burger, they want you to buy the meat burger. So veggie burgers are not necessarily healthy for you, but they're great transitioning tools for people who want to become more plant-based. So it's fine to implement them in substitution. Um, but don't think like you can eat veggie burgers 7 days a week and that's good for you. It's not good for you. It might be a better alternative than eating KFC 7 days a week, but it's not better for you. It's not good for you.
Okay, so now let's go back to plant based stuff. What is your opinion on moringa seeds?
Um, so this is kind of we get this a lot as naturopathic doctors. People ask us like, "What's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on this?" It's
Yeah.
kind of just whatever it is. I would say that's a very specific thing. I don't know. I know a lot of people I've seen in the alternative world using it for like skin conditions and things. I know Dr. Sebi talked about moringa a lot. So um, I guess that's an individual question. It depends on what you're using it for and if you have any health conditions and things to consider about what you're taking. But I want to state this very carefully. Natural does not mean safe. Natural does not mean safe.
That's a big statement.
Yeah, because people think that I can take this because it's natural. No, that's not how chemistry works. Anytime you put anything in your mouth, you are erase everything else in your mind. You are taking you're doing a biochemical experiment in your body. Okay. So just because something is natural does not mean it's safe. There are plenty of things that you can take that are harmful to you, depending on your health, on where your health is. Not even saying like, oh, I'm a sick person, so I want to take this. But I can give you an example. Um, Vitamin A. The number one cause of night blindness is like vitamin A deficiency. Okay. Our food is very vitamin A poor. So people are like, oh, I take vitamin A, it's good for me. Vitamin A in high amounts is actually toxic. So you can use it. A physician might use that to help with an infection you're fighting. If you're a woman, too much vitamin A can induce an abortion.
Wow.
So the idea that, you know, it's just good for me because it's natural, no, that's not how health works.
So you're saying, let's unpack that, because we've all, that statement is extremely heavy, and we're gonna get to you. I'm definitely gonna get to everyone's questions here, but that statement is extremely heavy because for so long we have come with the understanding that anything natural
Yeah,
is perfect for our bodies,
yeah, that's
no
not
matter how much, you know. Obviously, we understand that too much of one thing isn't good, but
right.
so, and that's also a difficult statement, Dr. V,
Yeah,
because you're telling me everything natural may not be great. So how do I differentiate what's natural and good and keep myself and what's too much? I know that's a loaded question, but
no,
probably a lot more explanation.
that's a good question because you said something that's important to highlight, and it's not just that it's too much of anything. So it may not be appropriate for you depending on what you have. You might have high blood pressure and or you might have,
High cholesterol.
let's say you have poor liver health and then you're taking garlic. You're told garlic is good for you and you might be fighting an infection. So I'm taking garlic every day. Well, what are your clotting factors like? Because garlic naturally is an anticoagulant. Like you can give it and it helps, they call it blood thinning. Okay. So it helps you bleed. Okay. Garlic helps bleed. Okay. So you may not want to take that if your liver health isn't good. Or let me think of an example of somebody who's healthy and may not want to take something. I mean, the iodine example of the CMOS one is the simplest one. You might have a proclivity towards autoimmune condition for the thyroid, and you're taking CMOS, and then now you might give yourself an autoimmune condition for your thyroid. So it's not everything natural is safe, but how do you figure out what you should be taking? Um, I mean, that's why we exist.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
literally why we exist, is to help people make those decisions. Um,
So
there's You're also your best experimenter, and so I always want to. Education is important, and doctor does mean teacher. Like the word doctor literally means teacher in Latin. Like where it comes from, it means teacher. So you're really but you know your body better than anybody else. And so when when a doctor tells you something, you always have to compare and contrast it to the reality that you experience as well. Because a textbook is just a textbook information. I can only get so much from you, but I don't live your experience. So that's another thing to be conscious of, is to be conscious of yourself and to know yourself very well. You know, do you know what your bowel movements are like? Do you know, if you're a woman, do you know your menstrual cycle, when your menstrual cycle is, what affects your menstrual cycle, what are the cravings you have before your menstrual cycle, if any? And little details that people just go throughout the day and don't even think about. I've asked many patients before, like, hey, just simple questions. And they're like, I've never thought of that. I never thought about how this actually affects my body. So becoming more conscious, self-aware is a vital part of the experience between a patient and the doctor, because ultimately doctors, as the patient, you're the client, you're the paying client. So it's your house.
So now you're segueing into something phenomenal for me because I this is one of the big takeaways I want everybody to take away is what kind of conversations, what kind of questions should we be asking our doctor? Because for so long it has been told that whatever your doctor says is law. I can't tell you my grandmother she was on this medicine because because her doctor said this was law, and guess what? I couldn't tell her no that you shouldn't be on it because I don't know, and we're stuck at the will and the whim of the doctors, and we trust them, and they're the educators, they're the professors when it comes to medicine. You have preached this several times on your Instagram about tough questions to have a conversation with your doctor, and you welcome it with your patients.
Yeah,
What questions should we be asking our doctors when we sit in their offices?
it's a great question. So, little sidebar and plug here. What I will be doing is releasing a free ebook to everybody on the chat. If you want it, throw your email in the chat, and I will look through the chat, add you to my list, and I will send a free ebook probably next week about questions to ask your doctor. It's not long, but it's just some quick little go-to points of things you want to consider. Now, on that note, um, you should never trust people who don't want you to question. Not not a good idea because the doctor is questioning you about your experience. So you should always want to question the doctor about what they are suggesting to you and why they're suggesting it and what outcomes are you looking for? What should you be aware of? Risks, alternatives, and benefits. It's something we all know. In the medical world, we call it informed consent. It's something that's really missing. It's really, really missing out of medicine nowadays because people don't know. I have so many people who are taking medications and you ask them, why are you taking this? And their answer is, because my doctor told me so. That's not a good answer. Not a good answer at all. And I can't blame the doctor 100% because as the paying client, that's your responsibility to also ask that question. But if nobody's told you, you can't be held responsible. So from this day forward, everybody here should understand that it's your responsibility to ask your doctor questions. And if you're not liking the question, the attitude that the doctor has about you asking questions, as long as they're respectful and in an inquisitive manner, not like, I don't like you kind of thing, there's no reason to generate that kind of hostility. But questions you should ask your doctor, very simple ones you should ask your doctor, because I see this all the time with patients. Your lab results. What labs are they running? Why are they running them? What should be normal? And if there's something abnormal, how will they inform you? Like, how are you going to get informed of your lab results? I've had lots of people who told me they've done labs and have not gotten their lab results from the doctor following the encounter.
I've only got my lab results one time. And
they're always
don't
there.
know how to read it.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's the other part. You won't know how to read it because it just requires medical training. But you should have a conversation with your doctor. That's part of informed consent. They're supposed to tell you what your lab results show and demonstrate and why that alters the treatment plan. So that's a question you should ask. What are my lab results? And what are we going to now? How do they now affect my treatment plan? Simple question. Risks, alternatives, and benefits. Okay. Second opinions. Don't be ashamed to ask a second opinion. Get a second opinion. Now, sometimes you need a second opinion from a specialist specifically in that field. Sometimes you need a second opinion from somebody outside of that field. So you might go see a doctor and they tell you you have diabetes. And that's your MD. Did you go to a DO or an ND and ask them their opinion on your diabetes?
What's
Because they might give doctor of osteopathy. It's a different type of doctor. Yeah, there's lots of different types of doctors. Doctor doesn't just mean a medical doctor, which is an allopathic doctor, which means they treat disease opposite. It's based on germ theory and exposure, and disease is as a separate entity. Like in naturopathic medicine, we understand those principles, but we also understand the principle that a seed grows in the soil that it's planted in based upon the conditions of the soil. So what's the condition of your body? Is it good soil for pathogenic bacteria and viruses? Is it good soil to grow for harmful things? or is it good soil for, or is it good soil to protect you from those things? We recognize that principle as well, which is something that's not included in the allopathic model. So, yeah, that's those are just a couple of questions to ask your doctor,
So
though.
now, so now, Dr. B, so I have to ask, just to reiterate so everybody understands the
Yeah,
questions you should be asking your doctor. What do these lab results mean?
yeah,
What do they mean for the treatment going forward? And
yeah.
what was the other one you were saying? I want everybody to remember them.
What all like what options do you have for treatment? Because a lot of times they will just give you an option and not inform you that you have other options. You have other options. I have countless people who said they were pre-diabetics, and they're like, "Well, you got to take metformin," and then eventually you'll go from metformin to insulin eventually if you just let it keep going. And it's like, well, hey, maybe I should meet with a nutritionist, or maybe I can meet with an ND and discuss about reversing this so I don't progress to diabetes. Like that's an option. But if your doctor never mentions it, because doctors are busy and there's no shortage of sick people in the world and looking for help. And doctors, in my opinion, doctors suffer a lot from what I call moral injury, which is the desire to do good, but the inability to realize that ambition because of certain circumstances and condition of the medical system that they find themselves in. So their hands are tied in a lot of ways with certain things. Like as physicians, everybody knows that insurance is like we all know insurance dictates care to some degree. So there's always, I don't care how much the doctor loves insurance. There's every doctor has had an experience where they're like, oh, we got to do this first because insurance says so, and it may not be in the best interest of the patient, but it's the best interest. It's the
Wow.
law of the insurance. So um, we've all had, I mean, all doctors have had that experience or know of that experience. It's not something uncommon. And that can go way further into other things that are happening um, to where it's far more severe. For example, you might have a cancer and the doctor's like, I know it's cancer at this point, but I can't technically say it's cancer because the law says I can't say it's cancer. And so they have to do something. They may know it's a certain cancer and they may know this poor, your chances of recovery from this cancer by the treatments that are available are not good. But by the laws that we have to follow, they might have to do another procedure, which may be very uncomfortable to you. And do you really want to do an uncomfortable procedure if you know you maybe have 3 months left to live? Is that the time to start doing biopsies and things like that? Probably not. Like you probably want to start, getting your life in order and handling other things. But by the doctor's hands, their hands are tied because they have to do that because that's just what legally you have to do.
Wow.
So, you know, that reality is there for doctors as well. And so doctors are very busy and they have a lot to deal with as far as legalities and other things. So they don't have time to babysit each patient, which is why when you go in there, you have to be in charge of your health. You have to be in charge of your health. Your doctor's there to help you be in charge of your health, but your
So now,
doctor's not in charge of your health.
so that's powerful information, and I'm glad that we got so many people on here to hear this. You're saying diabetes, what what us in the black community and several communities say, sugar diabetes is reversible from a certain point if we can do it naturally or in certain ways. So you're saying different diseases are reversible if we
Absolutely.
catch them early enough or if we treat them a certain way.
Absolutely. This notion, diabetes, I believe last time I looked at the statistics, it was like around 35 million people are diagnosed with diabetes in the United States. And out of that 35 million, only 33 of that 35 million, around those numbers, give or take a million or so. Um, it's completely reversible. And it's only circumstances and conditions that are keeping them in that state. And because nobody's addressing the root cause of the issue. As naturopaths, we always go for the root cause. That's why I was explaining the cough issue. Symptoms and signs, diabetes is a result in many cases. There's some exceptions. But for the vast majority, like I said, of the 33 million out of that 35 million, that result, that process that's occurring can be reversed for most of those people if they would work appropriately with the right physician and that's actually invested in it. But the question goes on You know, how much are you willing to make that change? Do you, when you look up sugar facts and things like that, or fat content, and the way that we poison our bodies, we can't do what we want without consequences. So why do we understand that there are emotional consequences? From a religious perspective, we understand that there's spiritual consequences. Why do we assume there's no physiological consequences, like material consequences to the actions that we do? If you don't drink water, there's gonna be consequences to it. It's just it's the way it is. If you eat certain things that you're not supposed to, there's going to be consequences of it. So
So I want to, before we wrap it up, I want to close this out
I
about my
know we've
five.
gone over time. I know.
It's all right because you got in a good groove, and I want to make sure that the audience can pull away as much out of you as possible. I'm definitely going to have you back. I'm going to wrap it up in about 5 minutes at 9:45. Um, I want to get a question specifically to our, I see somebody raising their hand. If you have a question, you could always put it in the chat or just drop it there or send it to me privately. But question, I want to, so we have four: increase fruits, increase vegetables, increase water intake, movement. What is number five? Especially for, I would say, our clergy leaders. We had a conversation before the show about, the 20 or so Church of God in Christ leaders that died, that it just at a certain point, and
Right.
maybe it was in respect to COVID or anything like that. In these last few minutes, please talk to speak to two things: that last component of the five components of health in your opinion, and to speak to the importance of focusing on your health. Speak to the importance, especially older folks, for younger folks that think that we're invincible and all that. What speak to that last component and the importance of health as we close out here.
Right. So the fifth one, I said everything we are physically made of is what we eat, breathe, drink, and think. Um, with movement there will come breath, but what our thoughts? Our thoughts are what we expose our minds to. We can't shut off our mind. And so the thoughts that we expose ourselves to play a huge role in how we in our body's health. Okay. And I don't just mean that because everybody's been talking about mental health. I don't just mean that in a very abstract way, but I mean literally the thoughts you have can increase cortisol, can increase inflammation, can increase blood pressure, can increase all sorts of negative things that you don't want in your life. Okay. So we need to be conscious of the thoughts we have. Now the question is like, how am I supposed to just think positive? What are you saying? Just think positive? No, because that's not realistic. But you have to have a base upon which you can rely on, and you can problem solve, and you can So I give an exercise to people that involves writing, and one of the reasons I say that is because a lot of the times, you know, because sleep is a huge thoughts sleep is what most people would say, and I 100% agree. Sleep is important. You can't sleep well if you're not thinking right. It's just automatic. Nobody who's sleeping well is like has bad thoughts constantly running through their head. That pillow can it's be very soft, but that bed can lay very hard sometimes at nighttime, depending on what's on our minds.
It's true.
So getting those things out into some kind of art form or some kind of expression is important. Whether it's writing your thoughts down, ripping the paper up, and you just got it out. Write all your thoughts down of all the things that are bothering you, rip it up, throw it away, gone. Um, that helps. It helps alleviate the burden because it's not just sitting in here, but it's almost like self therapy. It's self talk that you're doing, which is a form of therapy. Um, you know, and concerning the death in our community and the health of our leaders and those who think, not saying anything about those who have passed, unfortunately, but to those, the young ones who think they're invincible, or the older folks who don't want to change their ways. Um, the law of consequence is inescapable for all of us. It's cause and effect. Now, it doesn't. There's multiple factors to the effect that we may see. But would it not be in our best interest to do our best? Like we can train for an athletic. We can go into an athletic competition without training. But particularly in our community, we don't do that. We know better than to do that because we respect ourselves enough that when we're going into the activity, we know that unless I've trained, I'm not just going to go play basketball against LeBron James. It's not going to happen, right? We respect ourselves enough because if somebody like that comes around, we're like, oh no, I'm done playing for the day. I'll let you play. So we know to take certain steps and exercise caution in certain circumstances, but we don't always do it in the moments that we should. So if you're finding change to be hard, that just means you need help, which is why you need a good trusted physician. So it's self-examination. Ultimately, I can't make you live a healthier life, but I can work with you as much as you're willing to participate and give you the best tools that I can to help you improve your health. So I would say for those suffering the loss, I'm terribly sorry that this has happened. We should use this moment to not just be sad and mourn, but also to take into consideration the effects of our actions that have had of the past and change the pattern so that others don't have to suffer the same thing. Because the worst thing that could happen would be to not change anything and then we suffer the same circumstances and conditions that happened in the past. So,
Dr. B, thank you so much. That was phenomenal. I know I can speak for everybody when I say that I learned so much. I thought I learned from you in our pre-production meeting that we had, and you taught me so much more here and just a way to look at things. I'm going to leave the chat up. Everybody, you're definitely free to go. I appreciate everyone coming out.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Before everybody goes, I want to make a plug. I got to plug my stuff in real quick.
Do it.
I have a website up. If you're interested, sign up. So everybody who put their email in the chat, great. I will go through the chat and add you. But if you sign up on the website, automatically when I release the ebook, it'll just send it to you automatically. The website is La Vie Naturale. So LAVINATURALE.com. You're free to ask me any questions you want to ask me there. Don't try to get a consult out of me from just email questions. I will schedule something with you. So I don't want to see like long medical histories, like 15 pages. So yeah, reach out to me there. Same thing on Instagram, same word altogether, La Vie Naturale. And I'm releasing some natural healthcare products as well. So if you're interested in that, because I'm very interested in removing people away from the toxins that we're using. So like with women's health, a lot of the deodorants contain aluminum and things like that end up creating swollen lymph nodes and breast cancer worries and maybe even breast cancer sometimes with some of the stuff we're putting on ourselves. So yeah, I'm doing that as well. So I just wanted to add that plug in. But yes, you can reach me at La Vie Naturale. I'm always open to questions. I don't mind sharing because I did not go into this for self-aggrandizement. I came in to help people. And so as much as I can help people, I'm willing to do it.
Awesome. I'm glad you took care of that because I was just going to ask you to basically do what you did because you definitely open up yourself to a new community. You're definitely going to get a whole bunch of questions and you definitely got at least 30 new subscribers to your website, to your channel. So everybody go follow him on IG, La Vie Naturale, LaVieNaturale.com. You have new fans. I appreciate your wisdom and knowledge. And I want to say, seeing a brother like you do this is phenomenal. I'm so proud to see you doing it and just being able to help us because now we're educated and we're empowered. I don't want to keep anybody any longer. I'm so grateful for everybody that turned out. I apologize again for the late start, but we got some good information. I hope you all were educated. Again, Dr. B in the house doing his thing. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
The broadcast is on YouTube, so you can definitely go back and watch it again in case you missed it. And if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out via the website and and I'm sure, I know for a fact, he'll definitely do his best to answer. So thank you so much. I appreciate everyone.